I would like to wish everyone a happy New Year's. It is January 1st, and it is time for another edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. I apologize that the last episode that I did on Christmas Eve won't be put up till probably today. But on today's episode, where there's a lot to talk about, first off, we'll get it started with the Steelers playing their final game this past Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. Nothing was on the line, no spoilers or anything. The Browns were already out of it, and the Steelers were as well because of the loss to the Bengals. And the crowd, of course, at Heinz Field was not as full as for, of course, normal regular season games because the Steelers are always in it. But they were there to support the team, and guess what? The team played well. Even though Cleveland was banged up so were the Steelers, they were down to their third-string quarterback in Thad Lewis making his first start, rookie from Duke. They were back down to their backup running back, Montario Hardesty. And they had a depleted secondary. And then the Steelers had players, Wallace wasn't playing, Miller wasn't playing, Ike Taylor wasn't playing again. Just both teams were pretty much banged up. But the Steelers were able to win the game 24-10. They got 4 turnovers in this game. Cortez Allen was a part of 2 of them, and he has been the surprise so far. Seemed like he was the one that, if there was a turnover, he was there. He either forced a fumble, got an interception, or recovered a fumble, and I was really surprised by that. Troy Polamalu came up with an interception in the game, and the defense overall they played great. They ended up finishing the year. They wanted to finish the year number 1 in all 3 categories. It didn't happen because of the amount of rushing yards they let up in the game. Finished number 1 in total defense, number 1 in pass defense, and I believe they finished number 2 or 3 in rush defense. But still, it's quite an accomplishment. It's just a shame that the number 1 total defense isn't going to be participating in the postseason. This was definitely Ben's best game since he came back from his injury. He was efficient, but he only passed for a total of 134 yards, got 3 touchdowns. No receiver had more than 25 yards receiving, which was a surprise. One of the nice things, though, watching the game, Burris caught a touchdown pass, his first one since he was signed by the team on the 25th. So that was a good thing to see. But yeah, this game was a true testament to how Roethlisberger said Haley's offense was dink and dunk, because that's what it was. You pass for only 134 yards. And that doesn't show that you're a high-flying offense going down the field vertically. One thing, though, that remained consistent was the running game struggling. Jonathan Dwyer had some spurts there. Had around 50 yards rushing, but Redmond did nothing. Mendenhall did nothing. It's just something that they'll have to address next year. Then I was really disappointed. The Steelers, they got caught off guard again by another fake punt. Ray Ventrone, a backup cornerback or safety for the Browns, ran it up the middle. He was the up back on the play. Ran for 35 yards. It led to the Browns' only touchdown of the game. You just can't have that happen. That happened now twice against San Diego and now Cleveland. Yeah, that's something that they'll have to work on. Maybe firing the special teams coach. That was a problem there, but something they have to work on. And now, with the season being over and the Steelers finishing 8-8, they will be picking 17th in the draft. So many questions. You don't know what position they're going to try and target first. The talent in this year's draft is not as good as it has been in recent years. And there's so many questions about which players will be back. Aging veterans, free agents. You don't know what's going to happen. And I would like to talk about it now, get into it, but either this week or next week I will be doing my season in review show for the Steelers. Kind of be along the same lines of the format as I had for the Pirates season in review. So we'll talk more about that. It's just 8-8, mediocre year. Bottom line was Steelers lost to bad teams, and then they couldn't win the close ones against these better teams. And then you come up with these stinkers like they did against the Chargers at home. That's not what a playoff team does. And you know what? Even if the Steelers would have got in, would have been playing New England first. Or my mistake, they would have been playing at Houston. Maybe with this team, but this was not a Super Bowl team. So the ultimate goal, making the playoffs, yes, would have been better. It would have extended the season. More people would have been happier. But they wouldn't have done much in the playoffs regardless. And now that football season is over, and there's a season that is picking up, and that is conference play in the Big East for Pitt men's basketball. And yesterday I attended the game, first time ever at the Peterson Event Center, with my dad to see the Pitt Panthers play the Cincinnati Bearcats. Before the game, Cincinnati, the old poll, Cincinnati was number 8, Pitt was number 24. I believe during the middle of the game, the polls were released, the newer ones. Cincinnati fell back to 14th because of their loss to New Mexico, and Pitt, in the one poll, jumped up to 22. This was a game that Pitt should have won. At halftime, they were leading 34-26. And they were getting a lot of transition buckets. And they were shooting the ball well, 48%. Second half, though, was a completely different story. Pitt looked slower on offense. They weren't making their shots. They couldn't handle, I think, the full court pressure by Cincinnati, and that's something that Jamie Dixon's teams have never been able to do. For some reason, they struggle with the full court press, and it throws their whole rhythm off, their offense off tilt, and they just couldn't recover. Cincinnati, they were making threes. They were capitalizing on free throws. They out-rebounded Pitt by 9 in the second half. They ended up finishing it, out-rebounding them by 5. They looked more stronger down in the paint. They looked like they were the stronger team, the more physical team. And granted, yes, they have 3 seniors, a fourth-year junior. Pitt has 2 freshmen in their lineup. That shouldn't matter, though. You're on your home court. You wanted to put last year's sour taste of a 5-13 record in the Big East out of your mouth. You lose to Cincinnati in your first Big East game, I believe, last year, and you lose to them this year at Peterson Event Center. Not the way you'd want to start off Big East play. They end up losing the game 70-61, but Pitt had their chances. It was 60-55. And with about 3.5 minutes or so left, close to 4, all Pitt needed to do was get some stops. And granted, Cincinnati's offense, they were getting the ball inside, outside. They were making tough shots. Pitt just couldn't stop them. Cincinnati missed their first shot on that possession. They came down with the rebound. Once again, dribbling down the clock. They take another shot, wide open 3. And Cincinnati still gets the rebound. Gets it back, ends up dunking it. They're up 62-55. That they chewed away almost 2 minutes of time. And Pitt just could not get the rebound. And the crowd there, they were so frustrated. They were saying, "Oh my God, come on!" They were just, you could tell it was just really bad. And the Pitt players were getting frustrated too on the court. But despite all that, Pitt still had another chance. 62-55. Talib Zana goes down, makes a bucket, and gets fouled. So it's a 5-point game. He misses the free throw shot, but Lamar Patterson gets the rebound, lays it up and in. 62-59 with about 1:30 to go. And then right on the ensuing inbounds play, Trey Woodall comes up with the steal and gets fouled. So here we go. 1:27, 62-59. Trey Woodall's at the free throw line, a 5th-year senior. It's a 1-1. At this point, I thought, okay, they're going to pull it out. Because we've seen in the past Pitt come out with miracle wins at home. We saw it this year against Oakland. But Woodall missed it badly. It was way short. Cincinnati got the rebound. Pretty much ended it from there, capitalizing on the free throw line. And Pitt lost by 9. That was just a disappointing way to start the Big East play. A lot of questions were being called in about Pitt's non-conference schedule. Were they ready for this team? I believe they were. They just played a bad second half. Pitt has only really played 2 top teams Michigan and Cincinnati, who are both, I think, lock for Sweet 16 teams. They had the lead at halftime at both games, and in the second half they just fizzled. I mean, you can't do that against good teams. The only thing that's differing from this year's team to last year's team had bad losses at this point. Wagner, Long Beach State, and then the Cincinnati loss that sent them into a spiral downward. This year they don't. They don't have bad losses. It's just they need to start picking up some good quality wins, because if they beat the mediocre teams in the Big East, I could see them being a bubble team come tournament time. I know it's only one game in the Big East. I just think if they can go the rest of the way 10-7, finish the Big East Conference 10-8, I guarantee you'll probably be in the top 7 at least. Maybe win a game or two of the Big East tournament. You're going to get in the tournament. You're going to get in the NCAA tournament. This team has a lot of growing up to do, though. Steven Adams is an enigma to me right now. I mean, he improved somewhat in the non-conference schedule, but in the Big East, he's really going to have to come farther along. He had 9 rebounds in the game, but guess what? He didn't even attempt a shot. And there were times when he got bullied around by the Cincinnati backcourt, or my mistake, the front court. And granted, Cincinnati is one of the top 3 teams in the Big East, but they do not have the premier big men. That's where Notre Dame comes in, Syracuse, Louisville. I just think Steven Adams, he has to get more physical in the paint, because Talib Zana was the only one who did much of anything in the paint. Finished the game with 16 points. He was Pitt's best player. Steven Adams, I mean, he's coming in, freshman phenom. People are saying, oh, he's going to be the best player since DeJuan Blair. I haven't seen it so far. He's getting better, he's progressing, but he has to be more physical and more intimidating down low. And Jamie Dixon was saying they were trying to get him the ball, they just couldn't get anything going. And he will be key, like I've been saying. He is the key for this team to be relevant and good again in the Big East. If he struggles like he did against Cincinnati, they're going to probably finish below 500 again. They need a big man scorer. They didn't have that last year. And once again, missed free throws. Jamie Dixon's team they've never had a great free throw shooting team. They've had players that have shot free throws well. I think Lamar Patterson is shooting the best right now from the free throw line, and it's not even 80%. You would hope to at least have one, at least an 80% from the free throw line. Woodall was close to that, but he struggled yesterday as well. So they just got to work on that, because that's going to kill you. 5 out of 11 in the second half is just not good. And the one statistic that boggled my mind, Pitt went 0 for 9. My mistake, 0 for 10 from the three-point line. They didn't make a three-point field goal at all. And granted, most of the looks they had, they weren't even open. But the few that they had, they weren't even close. And if you look at this team, yes, they were hitting three-point shots in the non-conference schedule. I would say Pitt's best three-point shooters, Lamar Patterson, Trey Woodall, J.J. Moore, and then James Robinson. Cameron Wright and Duron Johnson, they showed flashes there, but they don't really have a guy that can scare you like Ashton Gibbs did in the past, and with Levance Fields and all them. I mean, something's going to have to change. They got to start shooting more threes, I think. Lamar Patterson especially, he was hesitant a lot during the game yesterday. You can't do that against these Big East teams. If you have a shot and you feel confident you're open to take it, don't hesitate. Just do it, because all they needed to do yesterday was make one, and that would maybe get the team going, but they just couldn't hit one. Couldn't make one, and that was a killer as well. And James Robinson, the backcourt duo, Robinson and Woodall, played great in the first half. But in the second half, Woodall only had 2 points, Robinson only had 2 points. And Robinson only had 1 turnover. The assists weren't up, though, for both point guard-esque type players. And Robinson, he's a freshman. I understand that. But he has to play older. And a lot of coaches have said, yeah, he plays like a veteran. But in these big-time games against, the top Big East teams, he has to play better. I thought he looked a little confused in the second half. He looked frustrated, There were moments where he made lazy passes, and you just can't do that against a good team like Cincinnati. So hopefully he will improve. And I mean, him and Adams, freshman, they should improve. I mean, there's no way that they can play more poor than they did against Cincinnati. The only possible way for them to get better is, just practice and just start stacking up wins against these teams. And that'll build more confidence within the players. And so Saturday at 11 a.m., which is a very unusual start time, I guess it's because of all the college football games, Pitt will be traveling to Rutgers. And Rutgers, they really haven't beaten anyone. I mean, their record, they only have a couple losses. But once, like Pitt, pretty much, they didn't really play anyone. But Rutgers, it's in Rutgers, so and any road game in the Big East is tough. Whether you're playing DePaul, St. John's, South Florida, Marquette, doesn't matter. So I think it'll be huge for Pitt to get that win. I do expect them to bounce back. I don't think Rutgers has enough to match up with this Pitt team, but you never know. If they lose the game, I have a feeling it's going to be like last year. Might be a little bit better, but it might be the same way. You can't go 0-2 to start in the Big East. You just can't do it because more than likely than not, you're not going to recover. And Pitt has to start beating these middle of the pack teams, and Rutgers I think will be maybe even close to the bottom. They gotta play well, gotta beat them. And with the loss to Cincinnati, they'll probably fall out of the top 25. I expect them though to stay in the top 30. And now I'll get into a little preview of the BBVA Compass Bowl on January 5th, also Saturday, where Pitt will be taking on Mississippi. This is Pitt's third straight BBVA Compass Bowl. 2 years ago, they beat Kentucky. Last year, they got trounced by SMU. But this is the first time in the 3 years that their head coach is still there. In the first year, Wannstedt left, got fired. Then the second year, Todd Graham left, the coward. In this game, both teams are 6-6. Mississippi finished 3-5 in the SEC. Pitt finished 3-4. Mississippi has a good offense, probably a little better than Pitt's. Their leading receiver, Moncrief, has 948 yards and 10 touchdowns, more touchdowns than any Pitt receiver. But I think Pitt has the better quarterback play from Tino Sinceri and a better running game in Ray Graham and Russell Shell. I think the difference, though, is that Pitt's defense is a lot better than Mississippi's. Pitt only allows 19.7 points per game. Mississippi is 28.5. So I think Mississippi's going to want this game to be a shootout, and Pitt's not going to want that. Pitt has the capability to put up points like they did against Temple during the year, but I'm thinking keep this game within the 20s, and that'll be Pitt. That means Pitt's going to win. Pitt's favored to lose by 3.5, but you know what? I think they're going to pull out the win. Tino's, this is his last hurrah. I think they're going to play hard for Coach Christ. And I think Pitt's going to pull it out 24-17. And obviously Pitt would have hoped to be playing, in a BCS bowl or a more lucrative bowl, but I'm sure the seniors would take winning a bowl game to finish their college career. And at least it's a notable opponent, unlike SMU from last year that Pitt loses to them. So I expect it to be a good game. Sadly, I probably won't be able to watch it, but definitely be breaking it down. I'll probably record it and watch it later on. Talk about that next week. And also wanted to just quick note on the Pirates trade. I know I mentioned it last week. Hanrahan getting sent to Boston. All the players were mentioned in the deal. And once I heard that Hanrahan was being sent to the Red Sox, and also Brock Holt, I was a little surprised because, they brought Holt up last year when the Pirates were in the thick of a playoff run, and Holt he showed some occasional pop in the bat, but his defense was subpar. And the Pirates, Holt was a second baseman, and already they're set with Walker. I thought maybe Holt could have been the future shortstop, but they didn't think he'd be good enough there, and they still have Barmers for this year. So they sent Hanrahan and Holt to the Red Sox in exchange for infielder Ivan De Jesus, pitchers Mark Melancone and Stolmy Pimentel, and then first baseman, outfielder Jerry Sands. Like I said, Pimentel, he was a highly regarded prospect. He has struggled. I'm thinking he'll be with either AA or AAA to start off the year. Melancone, they think, is like Hanrahan when they got him from Washington. They think Melancone might turn out to be a little better. So I'll be a little surprised. I'm thinking he might make the bullpen. That would be really interesting to see. And then with Ivan De Jesus, I expect him to be in the minors. And then Jerry Sands, I'm not sure yet. Pirates already have a crowded outfield as it is. Tabata, Presley, Snyder, and then Jones platooning there. So I think Sands would have to perform well enough in spring training to knock out Presley or Tabata for him to make this team. But ultimately, as much as I liked Hanrahan, and it stinks that I have his jersey, I won't be able to wear that anymore, the All-Star jersey. I don't know. I think this trade might benefit the Pirates because a lot of people are saying, they might get a little bit more better performance, or at least the same, at a lower cost rate. With re-signing Grilly and then bringing in Melancone, and then also bringing Liriano, they pretty much spent around the same amount of money that they would have re-signing Hanrahan. And they improved their bullpen, or at least we'll probably get the same amount of production from the bullpen, and also increasing their rotation, making it better with the addition of Liriano. So I think the trade will help the Pirates out in the long run. Just a matter is if Hanrahan's going to continue to be dominant as a closer for the Red Sox, if he even wins the job, because they have some candidates for closer as well, unless Hanrahan performs really poorly in spring training. But I wish him the best. He was a good closer for us 2 years. 2 years where there were hopes of making the playoffs and finishing above 500, but they ended abysmally. So he really didn't get a chance to perform for us down the stretch run. But I wish him luck. And let's just hope the Pirates can... Hopefully this was a deal that was good on Huntington's part and doesn't backfire on him. And finally, I'd just like to talk about the NHL again. A new deal was proposed yesterday. They're still talking today. I'm thinking the deal is going to get done. If they were, the deadline is, if they do not get a deal done by January 11th, that will end it. Then the whole season will be missed out because they need to start the season no later than January 19th. To have a 48-game season. So, I'm hoping they get it done. I think they will get it done. By the next week we do our show, I think the NHL will be happening. It's just a matter of how many preseason games they're going to have, training camp, how long that's going to last, and if they're just going to throw them right into the season. I definitely think, though, it's going to be a watered-down year, of course. You're going to get surprise teams in the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. 48 games. But I just hope that hockey returns, because there's a void that's empty with a lot of Pittsburgh fans with Steelers not being in the playoffs, so I'm sure that'd be filled happily by Penguins hockey. But that'll do it, though, for today's edition. Next week's show, be talking about Pitt's bowl game, BBVA Compass Bowl with Mississippi, Pitt's game in college basketball at Rutgers, any more NHL news, any news happening with Pirates, and also I'll do a separate show, Steelers season in review. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. You just listened to the Sports Wrap. Signing off, I'm Michael Kravetz. Thank you.